Hi everyone, and welcome back to Spin Prog. Just before we get started, I wanted to say a big thanks for all the love on the last video I uploaded, kind of explaining what the situation is, what the story is, where I'm at in life right now. That was really, really nice, and I really appreciate you all. And with that, I'm going to dive right into what I was talking about. So, in the last video, I was telling you all about my prog radio show, Face the Strange. And right now, I'm going to talk about the very first episode I did on prog radio, and it was called Growing Up with Prog. So it was kind of like an introduction to me and how I came into prog. And okay, so this is going to be a little bit different to what I had there because I realised looking back on the playlist, if you go on to Prog Radio, you can go into the shows tab and you can go on to Face the Strange and have a look at my playlist and listen to the show if you want. And I realised I didn't have any Yes in there, and I was like, what the hell? Because they were around for my entire childhood. They were the first band I ever saw live, and I'm going to slot them in here now instead of the Mars Volta. So that's the only difference I have. Everything else is on the show if you want to go back and listen to it. I feel like this is kind of a cool idea to do in conjunction with the radio show because I can talk more here. Now, I can't play the music because YouTube's copyright things are just ridiculous, but whatever. Because on the radio show, I can't talk that much. I have to talk a little bit, go into a song, talk a bit more, go into the song. So I like that I can kind of go more in depth here. So I will start off with Yes. And this was my favourite album growing up, Fragile. And the reason is the song Roundabout I used to listen to constantly. Um, I don't know what it was. It was very exciting, I guess, as a kid, hearing this crazy song. I think this is where my love for keyboards kind of started as well when I heard Rick Wakeman's stuff on this. Um, yeah, I find it very kind of, it just pulls you in and it's like going on a roller coaster ride or something. The way it's like fast and then it can slow down and these ups and downs all the time. It's just really cool. But yeah, the way I saw it as a child, um, I had a very vivid imagination, and yeah, it just excited me so much. So yeah, Fragile by Yes was definitely a staple and definitely a doorway to more prog. Absolutely. And speaking of more prog, Marillion. Script for a Jester's Tear was the first Marillion album I ever heard because somehow, right, I don't know how this happened, this is such a weird story. I had a Sony Ericsson mobile phone when I was like 11 or 12, and I don't know what happened, but there was a file on it called Script for a Jester's Tear, and I didn't know what that was, but I thought it sounded really strange, so I asked my dad, I was like, what's Script for a Jester's Tear? And he was like, that's a Marillion album, like, how did that get on your phone? And it wasn't the album on the phone, I just this file that I couldn't open appeared on the phone. If that's not the universe sending a sign that I should listen to the album, I don't know what is. But yeah, it did prompt me to go and check it out. And I was very young, like I said, I was like 12, 11 or 12 when I had that phone. And I somehow got it. I understood it only a little bit now. The main songs that I kind of leaned towards on it were like The Web, because it was really like bombastic almost, and Garden Party was very like, wow, this is really fun. So as I got older and kept listening to it, I started to understand like Script for a Jester's Tear more, Chelsea Monday, all those things, and Forgotten Sons, of course. And I think it's one of the greatest albums ever made. And then when I went to art college, I started to look into Mark Wilkinson's work a lot more, and I had to do a presentation talking about an artist, and everyone else was doing the usual, like Da Vinci and Michelangelo and everything, and I was like, no, 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 Mark Wilkinson. So I did a little presentation on the Fish era of Marillion, so Script for a Jester's Tear, Misplaced Childhood, Fugazi, and Clutching at Straws. And I think diving into the artwork along with the album opened me up a lot more to the prog side of things, because the way they were so meticulous about matching up the artwork with the music, and yeah, all that I just found really fascinating. So again, I was being pulled in more and more. And that takes me on to Dream Theater. I've pulled out 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence because this was one I found resonated with me a lot when I started to get into my teenage years. Ireland is a very tough country to grow up in when you're a bit eccentric or you're interested in weird things, because people just kind of target you and pick on you when you're like that. In Ireland, it's probably the same in other countries and all, but I'm just talking about my own experience. And I experienced a lot of that growing up, especially in school. And when I discovered this, it kind of made me feel like I was heard, and I kind of understood that I'm not the only one like dealing with this kind of stuff. And especially the song Solitary Shell resonated with me a lot, which is a bit concerning looking back on it now. I'm like, oh my god, like I was obviously in a worse headspace than I realised. But you know, it's just an example of how great prog is for escapism. You know, kind of diving into a world where you feel like you're being listened to and you're heard. And I've always credited this music for helping me put into words what I was feeling, because I always found it so hard to verbalize what was going on. You know, I'd go and see like a therapist or whatever, and they'd be like, you know, what's wrong? And I'd be like, I don't know. I really don't get it. Like, I don't understand. And I was able to actually start like taking lyrics from songs and showing them and saying like, this is what I feel like, you know. It really helped me big time. But yeah, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence was just one of those albums that really, really helped me when I was going through a tough time. And I love Dream Theater now. I dove into the Mike Portnoy period at a very young age, and I think it helped me on like appreciate musicianship on like another level than I'd ever appreciated it before. So yeah. And next I am moving on to Peter Gabriel. He was around my entire life, like as long as I can remember. I've been listening to Peter. I think it was the video for Sledgehammer caught my eye as a little kid, because I loved like Wallace and Gromit and like Play-Doh stop motion stuff. And when I saw that video, I was like, wow, that's so cool. And like the video for Big Time and stuff. But again, it took me getting a little bit older and more mature to understand a lot of his music. And the album Up, I find it very intense talking about this one, because it was so helpful in those tough times, which I unfortunately was going through those tough times for a very, very long time. So there's going to be a lot of albums that kind of I used as like escapism and helping me kind of move on through this stuff. And especially the song My Head Sounds Like That is the one I chose for my prog radio show off of this, because again, it just, you know, when you're at rock bottom and you're just kind of going through the motions every day, you just can't wait to get the day over with. And it's just very kind of humdrum, like, yeah, la la la. Just the stuff he's talking about in this, the lyrics are just sublime and really, really resonated with me. But the entire album, I think, is a masterpiece, and as I dove into it more, I resonated with it more. I'm saying resonate like all the time here, sorry, but that's just how it is. Yeah, absolutely brilliant album. I mean, the song Growing Up is just descriptive of everyone my age right now, I think, because of the housing crisis going on in Ireland, especially. People can't afford rent, they're being forced to leave the country. um yeah, it's he's just a genius, this man. I really do credit him for helping me through some really, really rough patches. And next is Kate Bush. um Kate Bush, I wouldn't say it was like a case of, oh, I was going through tough times and she helped me. I just really loved her voice and the theatricness behind it. Um, I think, God, what was the first Kate Bush song I ever heard? I'd say it was Babushka, and I was blown away by it. I thought it was absolutely class, and then I saw the video that went with it, and I was like, this is just something else. I've never seen anything like this before. And she's an absolute babe, to be fair. But I used to do this thing where I'd sit down and play the PlayStation 2. And I'd have a CD in a CD player playing along while I was playing the game. And I started listening to a lot of Kate Bush at that time. And I remember the first time I heard Never Forever the whole way through. I just couldn't believe it was one of those moments where my jaw just hit the floor and I couldn't pick it back up. I was just blown away. I thought she was absolutely incredible. The whole album blended together. Um, the songs were just beautiful. Uh, Again, made me dive more into her discography, and I am a massive Kate Bush fan now. I think she's an absolute genius, and I actually saw an article the other day where she said she's excited to create new music, so that's awesome. We're going to get some new Kate Bush, and Dave Gilmour is trying to convince her to come back to playing live, so fingers crossed I might actually get to see her. That would be incredible. Next is Van de Graaff Generator. And yes, I've pulled out Pawn Hearts because when I was very young, my dad had this compilation album called Prog Rock, and it was like a triple album, and A Plague of Lighthouse Keepers and Team One were on it. And I don't know what it was with compilation albums. I liked listening to them when I was small, and I put that on and I heard A Plague of Lighthouse Keepers. Even as a little kid, I thought it was really cool, which is again very concerning looking back on. But it kind of came back into my life then when I was about 16, and I understood the lyrics more and the whole concept of it, and I just thought it was an absolute masterpiece, and I still do. I think it's incredible. One of the best epics ever. Um, I started to really get into Peter Hamill and his kind of vocal style as well. I like the intensity behind it. I think he's another kind of theatric singer, which is awesome. So like Peter Gabriel, Kate Bush, Peter Hamill, they're very theatric about how they perform and how they sing. And yeah, I think that's what kind of drew me into these guys. And um, I think it was when I got to about 19 or 20, I started to really enjoy kind of jazz fusion stuff, and it made me appreciate Van der Graaf even more because of like David Jackson's work and Hugh Banton with the music. So yeah, I suppose these are all like top kind of artists for me. God, didn't even think about it that way. Next I have Tool. I've pulled out the Enema album because on the prog radio show that I'm kind of doing in conjunction with this, I played Stinkfist. Um, Particularly for that moment in the song where it gets really kind of slow and it builds back up, and there's just this really heavy riff kicks in, and he says, I'll keep digging till I feel something. That moment in the song was so powerful for me. and it's still like one of my favorite songs to this day. But the album that actually kind of got me into Tool would have been 10,000 Days. Um, I used to play that a lot when I was a kid. Again, I was fascinated with the packaging of that CD. There was like these goggles on it that you could look at the artist's artwork. I can't remember his name, Alexander something. You could look at the artist's artwork through these like 3D goggles on the CD. And being like a big fan of art and stuff, that was fascinating to me. So I started listening to the music, and I thought it was like nothing I had ever heard before. I still feel like Tool are like that. Like there's just nothing like them out there. They are absolutely fantastic, incredible musicians. Okay, and I think, yeah, I have one more album. I'm just gonna have some tea. So, The Raven That Refused to Sing by Stephen Wilson. I had this on repeat when I was about 14. I really, really started to appreciate like the complexity of prog music. And when I heard this album, the whole thing, I thought it was absolutely mind-blowing. Absolute masterpiece. I think The Holy Drinker is one of my favourite songs of all time. It's so good. But the song that I actually put on the Prog radio show was the title track, The Raven That Refused to Sing, because it's so emotional. The story behind it is really sad. There's a music video that goes with it. Again, it's an animated thing, but it's really emotional. And at the time, my family unit had kind of been split up, and I was a bit lost. You know, I didn't have, me and my older brother were like best friends when we were kids, and when we were split up, it was rough. Like I felt like I was grieving him and that relationship at the time, and the song The Raven That Refused to Sing resonated with me a lot. I know it's a bit of a different story, like, but it just felt similar. And again, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of helping me put into words what I feel. And I will always, this album will always have a very special place in my heart because of that. So yeah, so this video was like a little reintroduction to me, and I just wanted to share some like top songs and artists witchy that I really like, just so you can get to know me a little bit, I suppose. So that would have been all stuff I was growing up listening to, and times were different then. Times are a lot better now for me, actually, and we will get into more of that as I make more videos on the channel. So thank you very much for watching. Coming up will be a lot more different. So the themes that I do on the radio show are usually kind of along the lines of theatrical stuff, fantasy, dreamy, all that kind of coolness. And I highly recommend checking out Prog Radio, because not only is my show on there, but my boyfriend Cody Brockway has a show on there every Thursday. And here he comes.
Hello.
So Cody has a show on there. Scott Lade from the Prog Corner pops up every now and then with musical musings, and Kevin, who runs Prog Radio, has a couple of shows himself. So every Monday he does What's New Proggy Cats, which is just all new music, which is great, you know, keep you in the loop of what's going on in Prague. And then on Tuesdays he does a side-by-side thing that's really cool. So he'll pick one side from one album by one band, and then he'll get another side from another album by another band and put them together. It's really unusual but really cool. Highly recommend checking that out. And he's doing a new thing now on Fridays where he brings in guest DJs, which is awesome. So he tries to get in people from like modern prog bands and stuff to do a little show on Prog Radio, which is awesome. So yeah, we're very lucky to have a radio station dedicated to Prague. I think it's a great idea, and big shout out to Kevin Carmody for keeping that going. It must be very tough, but
agreed.
Yeah, he keeps it going. Like, he's such a legend.
He's the best.
But yeah, so thank you very much for tuning in to my video. There will be plenty more to come. Let me know in the comments what you guys would have grown up listening to, or what got you into Prog, and we'll have a chat down there. And if anyone ever wants to join me in a video having a chat about Prog and stuff, let me know, because I kind of want to do a little bit more kind of discussion based things here. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.